comedian Jeremy Nunes. Jeremy's dry bar comedy special, Neighborhood Sasquatch, is one of the highest rated episodes on the platform. Nunes also released an Amazon Prime special titled Who's With Me? He has appeared in The Layover, The Breakup, Last Comic Standing, Final Witness, two PBS miniseries, Comcast On Demand, a National Geographic special, and heard on ESPN Radio. Nunes is also one of the most requested comedians by SiriusXM satellite radio listeners. He hosts the award-winning Comedy Meets Pro Wrestling podcast called Dynamite Drop-In. He's also the author of a book called You Can't Write City Hall. We're going to talk about it all right now. Jeremy, welcome to Revival Town.
Oh, well, awesome. Thanks for having me. And I just got a notice that this is being recorded. I had no idea that this was a recording, so I'm going to decline the request.
Oh, well, it's great to have you on Revival Town today. I know Chuck has been talking a lot about yourself because he's obviously seen you in action, and I just wanted to say thank you for coming on to Revival Town today.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thanks for having me. And cross paths with Chuck. It's been a few months back since, and you guys are super busy trying to get on your schedule. It was tough. It's like trying to see my doctor.
Oh man, well, I'm so glad it worked out. And I was telling Andy, we were at a men's conference at a big church in the Springfield, Illinois area, and I had to follow you. So you did your stand-up bit, and then I had to come up and preach. Thanks a lot,
that
Jeremy.
night went downhill quick.
But tell us, how'd you get into stand-up comedy?
So well, when we did that event, I heard a lot of people were watching you after I had gone up there. I heard a lot of people go, "This guy hasn't told one joke."
Yeah, and then someone else said, "What a joke!" That's the joke. This guy's a joke.
But to answer your question, how I got into it. So, I had always wanted to do it. It was a matter of sort of having the nerve to finally try for the first time, and kind of how things worked out in small towns. The father sort of passes on his business to his son, and then the son takes over, and eventually he passes it on to his son, and so on. And so this is true. My grandfather had started a trailer park in Dawson. And so when he retired, he passed it on to my dad, and he was ready to pass it on to me as the new manager of the trailer park. And I know I broke his heart one day. I was talking to him and I said, "Dad, I think I'm going to pursue stand-up comedy instead of running the trailer park, because I think I can make just as much money doing comedy as I can running a trailer park. Tens of dollars."
That's great.
Oh, my goodness.
So that's how he got started.
Yeah. Well, you even a part of Second City, right, in Chicago for a little bit.
Yeah. So after I graduated college, I was at Southern Illinois, Salukis, and made my way up to Chicago, broke into the comedy scene up there, started at Second City, and ultimately started making enough money in comedy. It took about 4 years that I could do it for a living. So I decided to come back to my hometown because it was much cheaper to live than being in Chicago doing it. Yeah. And I remember I was really concerned. I was talking to a lot of comedy agents. I was like, do you guys care where the comedian's from? Like, is it a bigger deal to say I'm from a comedian from Chicago than a comedian from the Springfield, Illinois area? And they're like, no, it doesn't really matter. We just care if you're funny. And so still working on that, but we're trying.
So what does your schedule look like? I follow a few comedians, Christian comedians, and obviously they're hustling a lot.
It's a grind.
And being in Springfield, like you mentioned, you're not in a Chicago or an LA or a Nashville or what's that type of schedule like for you?
So I would estimate I do about 100 shows a year. I'd ballpark probably 2 a week, generally Friday, Saturday. Do a lot of corporate events, a lot of church events. Typically they fall on the weekend, and the reasoning for that, if you think about like, a church event, it's going to take a lot of volunteers to put it on. And so most of the time they're not going to try to gather up all the volunteers, late afternoon on a Tuesday to get everything set up and then be there late and, have to go to work the next morning or whatever. So generally Friday, Saturday, for most of your events. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So I got to ask you about Last Comic Standing. I watched the show. I was a big fan. I did think about auditioning years ago, early in ministry. I wanted to do stand-up. And obviously, after my one stint at the Tulsa Comedy Club, that was enough for me. I actually did some church events and some stuff local for a little bit and had a good time doing it. But obviously, God called me to plant a church. But tell us about, how was that experience being on Last Comic?
Well, the weird part is, you stand in line for hours and hours. It was the middle of January in Chicago, so I remember standing out there for like 3 hours, and I was like, I'm going to be on TV with the worst like frostbitten face you've ever seen. And I was like, they're going to show my clip for all the wrong reasons, but you stand there and you're kind of looking around and I watch the people in line. I'm like, that guy doesn't look like he's funny. And that guy might be funny, but ultimately you get in there and did the audition, and they brought me back for sort of the regional finalist groups or whatever it is. So this was way back when they used to actually have them all live in a house. If you remember.
Yeah.
So, it was a long time ago. But
it wasn't at your dad's trailer park?
It was not at the trailer park.
Yeah.
Though that could be a great reality show. I got as far as you could without actually living in the house there, as a finalist in the Chicago auditions anyway. So that's as far as we got. And then, I remember I called my dad and I said, I almost made the show, but didn't get far enough. And he's like, should have ran the trailer park.
Well, you said you were standing in line looking around, and you were actually probably looking down at everybody. Those who are unfamiliar with you or meeting you for the first time don't realize you're 6'6". Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
6'6", man. Yeah.
What's the number one question you get asked because of your height?
Oh, no, you probably already know. They say, they asked me if I play basketball.
Oh man! Well,
I always say nobody. Yeah, I always say nobody walks up to a short guy and like, hey, are you a jockey? And then,
That's classic. Well, obviously you're in a position, obviously, with faith and comedy, right? And obviously a lot of comedians, their material, when we're talking about non-Christian, their material can obviously be bad, right? As far as the topics and what they're saying and things like that. For you, can you tell us a bit about the process that you go through of just creating material, and then that line that you have to tread? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Can you just open up a little bit? Because I'm sure, not that every comedian wants to be vulgar or anything like that, but obviously there are topics and things that you have to be careful about. What's that process for you like?
So I largely build off of just everyday life sort of things. Like, I've an unlimited amount of stories about being the mayor, and every day I'm experiencing something with, my wife or my kids, stuff I interact with my dad. So that's generally how it starts. And I kind of start jotting down funny things that happen. I'm too traditional. I don't put it in a phone. It's still on a notepad, handwritten.
That was my next question, if you carry around a notepad. So
yeah. Yep. And so, then I just kind of chart it out, try to see what's funny, if I can sort of bring the story, make it tighter, as we say in the comedy biz, so if this is a 2-minute story, can I make it just as funny in a minute and a half, sort of thing? All killer, no filler, as we say.
Oh, yeah.
So,
okay.
And then just sort of weed it down. And then as far as the how I test stuff out, some guys will use open mics for that. I sometimes will do that. It's a little bit busy with, two little kids running around, and I'm gone enough at it as it is, so my wife doesn't necessarily like me to be gone for open mic nights all the time.
Sure.
So a lot of times I'll try to work it into a show in between like two jokes that I know are really solid. So I normally get a big laugh, then I'll test the joke, and if it doesn't work, I still anticipate a big laugh coming on the next one. So as far as how to keep it clean or whatnot, usually my sense of humor is clean anyways. Sometimes it's something where I think, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying this, but the people, you got to remember when you're doing the church events, there's still people at the church. They're like, we should never have a comedian. He did.
Yeah.
Right.
So I always try to.
This is the house of God.
Right. So I try to think with those folks in mind, like what would they think? And I have, like, for example, I had one that I was like, I think this is okay. And I remember asking my pastor, I was like, is this good? And he's like, oh yeah, I had no problem with it. But Focus on the Family featured me a couple of months ago, and they were like, there's no way we're putting that joke on the show.
That's funny.
That is awesome.
And it is funny how certain places there would be certain things that you can and can't say. I know just recently, locally, Tim Hawkins was in town at a church and did his regular routine. And the following day, the pastor got up and apologized for one of Tim's jokes because it touched on a little bit about Israel. And this church is very big on everything with regards to Israel, and we understand that. But in the moment, and the pastor did say, but we will always welcome Tim back. This was just one blip within the whole routine that, so I guess that's hard for you though, because even churches have different beliefs on different things and things that trigger and not trigger. Do you find that hard with just the type of churches you have to go to?
You know what the hardest part is? So like Chuck, as you mentioned Second City earlier, the one thing they train you in the improv over and over and over is the first thing that comes to mind is what you fire out. There's no filter. You just go. And now if you're sort of following your joke structure, generally, I mean, you know what you're going to say. You've got them in mind. But when you start sort of riffing and kind of talking to the audience, all you're doing is straight rapid fire. So I've never said anything that I thought, oh, I shouldn't have said that. But that's always my big fear, is when I'm just firing away without actually thinking about what I'm saying or responding. That's my big fear. That I'm like, oh boy, I'm going
to go off the rails here. The First United Methodist Church. Well, it is funny how even different regions, different denominations, different all of that. When I did a book tour, I told the story where my son mooned me, and I would always ask ahead of time, like, "Hey, I told this one story, and in the story, I moon him back," and most people, most pastors was like, "Oh man, go for it." But I had some say, "Hey, no, that's wait, no."
Yeah, I can see why. Though.
Yeah, not doing that.
You could do.
So,
I remember.
I know it was your dad. He was like, "No, Chuck, you can't do it." No, I'm kidding. but anyway, man. I just have you ever had to grind it out at all the comedy clubs? I know a lot of comedians early on. I mean, you're married, you have a family, and now you're doing a lot of corporate events, so that probably takes some pressure off you. But was there a season where you just had to hit the club circuit?
Yeah, so that's really how I started. It was just in the bars and the clubs all the time. And I'll backtrack real quick. So to tell you about like sort of the differences between the churches, a friend of mine said the word beer at one church, and they did not like that, and they told him about it after. You never should have said that. And he said, well, next week I'm performing at another church. Everybody's drinking beer. So
Right. Well, you know what? To do what you do, I love clean comedians for a number of reasons. You know what? If the only way you can make people laugh is to be vulgar in front of a crowd that is drunk, that's not funny in my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, but to do what you do, it takes skill.
Yeah, well, thank you. So I'll tell you the joke I was referencing earlier, and every church I've done this joke in, not once has anyone said, "Oh, yeah." But so you're asking about how tall I was, or talking about it, and I always say people always ask about, my parents and what they look like. Well, my mom is 5'6" and Italian, dad is 5'7" and Hispanic, and the FedEx guy 6'6" and pasty white.
That's good. That's good. Oh, man. That's good.
Oh my goodness.
That's the joke. Focus on the family. They said no, we can't do that.
Come on,
You can do it
Mr.
on-
Dobson.
You can do it on Revival Town. don't
You
worry.
can do it
There
at
you
Rock
go.
Church. Come on. Well, you have got to tell the mayor story. You have to tell the story. I was fascinated. It's funny, but it's fascinating. It really is. I mean, I think it sets you apart from a lot of people. And now it's a book. And is this? Are you writing a screenplay about this too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, so the screenplay is based on the book, and I was actually writing that just this morning. I had some producer folks on the phone last week. It's I don't know. I think I've had 12 drafts that I thought were the final draft, and the guy called and I said, okay, just let me know. Does this thing need a big rewrite? Or he said, this is the script I've been waiting for since I saw your special.
Wow.
And I was like, wow. So I'm making some final tweaks today, and hopefully that's the end of it. But yeah, so
And it's
the
going to be on
story
Hallmark Channel, right?
yeah. But it will not be on Focus on the Family.
That's classic.
So yeah, I was doing comedy, coming up through the bars and the clubs and whatnot, and I was trying to figure out a way to draw a crowd. What can I do? So I ran for mayor as a joke to kind of get some media behind me and whatnot. And my campaign slogan was "Put a real joker in office." And then, of course, I thought, who would vote for someone like that? 80% of the town.
Says a lot for whoever was in office before you.
Yeah, it's true. The 24-year incumbent is who I defeated.
Wow.
Wow.
That is something.
Yeah, he was not happy. But so I'll tell you, the town is small enough. This is probably my favorite of the mayor's stories. The town is small enough that they don't have a police force. So in any small town, by ordinance, if there's no police force, the mayor is by default the chief of police. Okay?
Right.
Our Dollar General got broken into, and so I had to investigate the burglary. And so, the people, they cleared that thing out. They took everything in there. And me, I don't know if the burglar or burglars, I'm the lead investigator. I don't even know if there's more than one person. But now, this investigation, 3 years later, still unsolved. And I feel bad. Poor Dollar General. They lost everything in that store. Everything got stolen. Dollar General, $87 in losses.
That's classic. That's great. Oh man.
Oh my goodness.
So how?
I'm at a Dollar General almost every day because it's the closest store to where I live.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So how long were you mayor? or are you still
Well,
mayor?
I'll tell you first, Chuck, I got to ask, where were you on the night of January 14th?
Oh, he's joking.
Oh man.
Oh, that's
So,
good. That's
Brilliant.
Well, yeah. So, I was serving my time as mayor, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with the way of small town life, but they don't like to change stuff. And one of the things, traditionally, they have the all town garage sale the third Saturday of every September. Every year, it's the third Saturday of September. And one year, I said, you know what? Maybe we should move it to the fourth Saturday.
Just to shake it up a little bit.
Yeah. And I got recalled. And so so that's how my time as mayor ended. I got recalled for
For changing the garage sale.
it wasn't for not solving the mystery of the Dollar General. No, it was because you moved the garage sale.
What's crazy, there was a bunch of Dollar General stuff for sale at the garage sale. That could help you solve the case.
that was it. Yeah. But no, ultimately did not run for re-election. Had enough. And then I keep telling these mayor stories to everybody, and they're like, "You should be talking about that in your show." There's no one that's doing jokes like that.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's how it started, and then it kept getting bigger, and then ultimately someone's like, "You should write a book with all the stories. They're so funny." And then the book came, and then now they're like, "Oh, the book was great. You should turn it into a movie." And so I'm trying. We'll see what happens.
Wait, didn't you issue a citation to your own dad?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I
Happy
won
Father's
this award.
Day.
Yeah. I'm impressed, Chuck, that you remember this after all these months. But, so I won this award for being Illinois' most ethical mayor, and and part of the reason why is because I issued a fine to my parents, and I remember my dad called me when he found out. He goes, "Jeremy, why did I get this fine in the mail?" And I go, "Well, your grass is way too high. You have to mow your grass." And he goes, "Jeremy, you mow our grass."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, you should have called me sooner."
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Epic. I mean,
So, any other stories of being mayor of a small town?
So, you know, a lot of people listening may have heard of this, heard of the town. We've made the news, a few times, not for the best reasons. One, there was a dude who went a little wacko, and he barricaded himself in his house, and SWAT team had to come. They had to smoke him out eventually. It was a whole thing, and they had to shoot him. They have like rubber bullets. They had to shoot him with the rubber bullets and stuff when he got out. It was crazy. But don't worry, that guy's doing just fine now. Got the help he needed, and he's back to running his medical office.
oh my goodness! Wow. I guess true stories are the best stories.
There, we've got a little pond on the outskirts of the town, and somebody was fishing. They caught a goldfish. And then it became this big controversy. Well, who's dumping goldfish in our pond? And I was like, don't look at me. The only thing I ever threw in there was a mattress and a car battery.
Oh, man. That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Good stuff.
Oh,
My
wow,
goodness.
Okay, good. I gotta get a breather.
Have you ever been heckled?
It doesn't really happen that often. Especially, church crowds don't usually, but It's not. I mean, it does happen once in a while. The wildest one I got. This also ties into people often ask, "Do you have like an epic bomb story?" And so, I got called last minute to fill in for. I didn't really know what had happened, but I was just last minute fill in. I got noticed like the day before. I drove from the middle of Illinois all the way to South Dakota, and again, like Chuck, as you mentioned earlier in the beginning, you make your way through the bars and the comedy clubs and whatnot for low money. I think I drove all the way to South Dakota from Illinois for $100 maybe, and but I was like, well, I'll get in there and make a name for myself, and I promise you that town remembers me, but not for the right reasons. but so I get in there, and it's in the basement of a like it was a Holiday Inn, and they had like a big showroom and bar in the basement of this hotel, and I'm in there and I'm looking around and I'm seeing all these signs for this hypnotist, and I tell the guy that's managing or owns it or whatever, I was like, man, that's pretty exciting because I've never seen a hypnotist before. I never get to open for him, and he's like, oh no, the hypnotist canceled, you're the show. And I was like, oh, do the people know? And he's like, well, we're going to tell them. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. So, I'm watching I'm sitting in the back of the room and I'm watching all these people filing in and they're so excited. And
they're expecting a hypnotist.
Yes. They're like, you're getting hypnotized tonight. And he's like, oh, you're getting hypnotized. Not me, you are. So the guy that runs the place, he goes up to the front of the room, gets on the microphone, and he goes, I know you're all excited to see the hypnotist. And he goes, well, he canceled. And then everybody just goes, and he goes,
don't worry.
Don't worry. We found a comedian. I don't know how good he is. Jeremy Nunes. And then
he's the mayor.
This is what you hear.
Oh,
I heard a cricket in the distance. And so go up there. Now, the worst part, since in the basement of this Holiday Inn, the ceiling is probably 6'6" anyways. And it's an elevated stage. So, I have to stand sort of like sideways, like a pelican or something with my, so I'm trying to do the jokes. Of course, everyone hates me from the beginning. And one guy, he just yelled up, "You're terrible!" I was like, hey, man, you think I'm doing bad? At least I didn't pay $20 to see this show.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, man. Good. Oh. Yeah. So did you go ahead.
After I proceed to bomb terribly, now you have to remember, at this point, I was just the opening act. So now there's like another last minute comedian comes up to close the show. Well, he decides, he goes up there. This is a true veteran comedian at his finest. So he goes, I know you guys wanted to see a hypnotist. I'm not a hypnotist, but I have done a little bit of studying of hypnosis. So if you want me to try, I'll bring some people up. We'll do it. And so he gets some people on stage and people run around. He's doing a full-on hypnosis show. And at the end of the night, I go, man, how lucky for you that you knew how to do that. He goes, oh, I don't know how to do any of that. They just had so much to drink, they played along anyway.
Oh, that's funny.
Man. For a second, I thought you were going to say he was the real hypnosis guy. Oh, that's the real hypnotist. Yeah. I just wanted someone to bomb. No, I got the crowd where I want them. No, that's great. Oh, man. Yeah, I was going to say, were you tempted to go, you guys are getting sleepy. Very sleepy. So they'd be like, you know what? I kind of am.
Get my $100 and run out of there.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's funny.
that is fantastic, man. Good stuff. Well, I love what you do, and laughter's good medicine,
Yeah.
right? Any other, what would you say to somebody who's listening or watching, who they have aspirations of being a comedian? Is there any advice that you would give them?
Well, you just got to get out there and do it. And the hardest part is trying it the first time. And then most people will have a terrible bombing experience the first time. And then the hardest part after that is going back again. But if you can get through the second one, then you got a little momentum. You can keep going. So you just got to, as my friend says, get back on the horse and keep moving. So, and then if you still can't do it after the second time, just quit. You're not good.
Go work at a trailer park.
Yeah. Oh man.
Because, if you struggle too much in comedy, you find yourself surviving off of 10% kickbacks when you're a mayor.
Oh man, that is amazing. I'm still fascinated by you just going from mayor as basically a joke. That is absolutely brilliant. And it happened, which is
It happened.
Yeah. Oh man, that's great. That's great.
Man, so did you play basketball growing up or no?
No, I did not play basketball, Chuck.
Oh, okay. Volleyball. Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, you got us going. We're wound up. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's what I do, Chuck. If anyone wants a free quote, JeremyNunes.com, and the price is more than $100, though. I will say that.
That's good.
Are there any moments that you look back on and you're like, you know what? I didn't realize it in that moment, but man, that was a special night. Anything like that jump out?
I think the night that I filmed my special, because at that point, I've been itching and clawing for, let me think, I was probably 15 years in at that point, something like that, and I was standing there, and they got the spotlights and all the cameras, and I got a makeup person, and the whole works, and when it's all said and done, I'm like, wow, I did it. I did it.
Yeah.
And then, but the big fear is a lot of people don't realize this, but you film the special, then you're paying you're paying it for the special out of your own pocket. Then if you got to shop it, so you're spending, I think it's close to $10,000 to actually film this thing, and then cross your fingers that you find a platform that's actually going to buy it from you and get your money back. Otherwise, you just have a really expensive video on your shelf. So
I got the best promo video ever.
But yeah, so it works out now. Every time somebody watches my video, I get $1 every time somebody watches it. So for everybody listening, if you could just pull it up on your tablet and hit refresh numerous times, that's gonna.
Where can people see it?
I thought you were going to say I have $12.
Yeah, where can people see it?
It's on Amazon. If you just search my name, Jeremy Nunes, it'll pop up there. The special's called Who's With Me, and it is also on Christian Cinema. So I know some folks don't want to give money to Amazon. It's also on Christian Cinema.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe I watched it on Amazon. And so the Dry Bar special, completely separate? Or
Yeah, totally separate.
Yeah,
And by the way, I did see a negative review from someone named Chuck T. Would that be you?
Yeah, that's him.
it was not me. But my dad's name is Chuck as well, so I'm going to have to ask you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, totally separate from the Dry Bar special. So if there's Dry Bar fans, you can find me on there as well. And Yeah, that was, and talk about another special night. That was another one. I remember, you kind of sit back. The green room was kind of in a balcony off to the back, and I was sitting back there. I'm like, wow, I cannot believe this is happening.
Man.
And then, yeah, and I think the dry bar people, after they recorded it, they were like, we cannot believe this is happening.
Oh, my. Well, thank you for coming on today, Jeremy. I mean, I know I needed this laugh. And It's been good. I'm sure everybody that's watching and listening has done the same thing. Would probably say the same thing. And there might be some people watching and listening. They're struggling. We like to close every podcast by asking our guests to pray. Would you be willing to do that real quick?
Yeah, of course. And a quick question, Chuck, is Rock Church still the name of your church?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah, I'll pray.
Okay.
All right. Lord, thank you for the time that we all get to spend here together and just have some fun, have some laughs, and just forget about all the troubles that we might be going through in our own lives. I pray for Andy and the Dream Center, Chuck and Rock Church, that you can help give them the courage and endurance and wisdom they need to run each of those, help them and the groups grow both in size and number, but also in faith. Pray for my ministry and comedy for the same thing, that you help me grow in my faith, help this ministry grow in its size. And for all those listening here, I pray your blessing in their lives, whatever they may be going through, that you bless them and help them endure. And we pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much.
Amen. Well, Jeremy, how we've talked a little bit about where they can see some of the specials, but what's the best way to be following you, getting everything, with regards to book and things like that, or if there's ever news of a film or anything, what's the best way for people to follow you?
Well, I'm a little bit of everywhere. So the book is called You Can't Write City Hall. It's available just about anywhere you can buy a book online, so Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc., Books A Million. So it's there, or you can buy it directly from me and I'll sign it for you at jeremynunes.com. The book You Can't Write City Hall. The Dry Bar special we talked about. And then I am on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, you name it. It's usually, I would tell you all the handles, but there are multiple Jeremy Nuneses out there. So if I was the first person to claim it, it's at Jeremy Nunes. If not, it's something else. But if you search, you'll find me. So.
That's great. That's great.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, make sure everyone, you're checking out Jeremy. And also, is on the website, is there places where a link where you are going to be at?
You know what? There's a link to sign up for my email list, and then I distribute the email announcements based on zip codes. So you'll get notified when I'm coming to your area. So that's at jeremynunes.com. Yep. And there's also a spot for submit a crime tip.
That's good. That's good. Well, we're going to end the podcast with the big three questions that no one may be asking, but we're going to fire them at you anyway. So you want me to start, Chuck?
Yes, you go ahead, Andy.
Okay, so the big three. First question from me. Who do you get inspiration from on a comedic level?
Boy, I'm a big fan of Jeff Foxworthy.
Yeah.
So he's probably my favorite, but there's plenty of other guys that make me laugh. Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr make me laugh, though, fair warning, they're a little bit dirtier than most. But
then Jeff.
So, yes, yeah. So those are the ones. Brian Regan I would put in there as well. So yeah, I'd probably say those guys.
Okay.
Right on. Cool. My question, have you ever played basketball? Okay. All right. So listen, if I was going to come to your town outside of Springfield and we were going to not go to Dollar General, where would we go and hang out?
Where are you talking? Someone in general, or if you came to visit me?
If I came to visit you.
Stalker.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So step one, I'm going to take you to the interrogation room at the police station.
This is great. This is great.
I didn't do it.
Most cities, they do this.
Yeah. Oh.
But I would say, you know, probably get something to eat. My favorite spot, place in Riverton called Galena Pizza. But if you're not a pizza guy, they got pasta as well.
Oh.
If you have a gluten issue, probably not a safe place to be. But I would say that's the spot. General people to visit usually end up at like you know, Lincoln's home, Lincoln's tomb. They got a lot of Lincoln stuff. And true story, back in my pro wrestling days, the first gimmick they wanted to give me was from Springfield, Illinois. My name was going to be Gabe Lincoln, and I was going to be a longtime descendant of Abe Lincoln.
It's brilliant.
Whoa, that was close.
That was close.
Oh my goodness.
All right, the last question. Most memorable stand-up show that you have done. Where would that have been?
You know what? I had an absolute blast in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Yeah.
I hope I'm saying it right.
Yeah, my daughter-in-law is from Coeur d'Alene.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Okay. So there is just a couple there that they decided that they were going to just start doing. I think they do it once a month or once every 2 months. They rent out a theater there and they bring in Christian comedians. And in a town like that, that's not something that those people have really ever experienced. So I was one of the first guys to come through there, and it was an absolute blast. And so it was a great time. And the only issue is you got to fly out of Spokane. That's so you got to like fly and then drive like another hour to get there. But it was a lot of fun. They also have, a lot of people told me after the show, the longest floating boardwalk in the world is in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Really?
Yeah.
Andy knew that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been on it.
Wow.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And so they're like, before you leave, you got to go. So I drove up there and I couldn't figure out where to park or anything. So I was like, hey, I'm going to park right here where it says, do not park. You will be towed. So I parked and I was like, I'm going to experience it. I ran to one end of the boardwalk, ran back, and I legit saw a tow truck pulling up. And I jumped in that car. I was like, not today. And off I went.
That's funny. That's good. That's good.
Love it.
Well, we want to thank you for coming on to Revival Town today. This has been fun. And we don't want it to be a double visit, the first and last. We want you to come back again for sure.